He presented an idea to me. He gave me something to look forward to and to challenge me with. What are you looking at for challenges in your life? You know, a lot of times people will say they're concerned about the fear of failure. I'd rather look at it as the fear of success. How are you looking at it? You know, he began presenting to me what I would call a realizable plan. Yeah, it was aggressive, but I wanted to go for the ride, and so did the team. We made it a whole team effort. So first of all, it was Coach Timmons with the idea. Who's the visionary in your life? Who's the person that's presenting ideas to you? And then is there a realizable, possible plan to get there? And then the third thing you have to do at some point is you have to take ownership of that dream. And to me, that's one of the hardest parts, because you can have somebody lead you to the water, but are you willing to drink that water? And so it took time for me. We went through a year and a half of real intense workouts, and all I can say, some people look at those workouts and say, how did you do them? I don't really know. But God gave me some special talent. I was injury-free. We went from, as I said earlier, 0 miles to the first year we started at 60. Going into the second year, Coach Timmons said, hey, we're going to do something different here. They're training twice a day. You're going to train twice a day. Now, wow, I just started to master the once a day. So we started training twice a day. And this amazing thing happened. I went from, again, first mile 5:38 to, at the end of my first year, 4:08 for a mile, which is not bad. It was a national record, actually 4:07. And then the next year we had the Olympic trials, and somehow I made the Olympic team. Here's this kid going to the Olympic Games. Couldn't make the junior high track and field team. And when I went to my first Olympic Games, I discovered something. They're every 4 years. Can you imagine that? They would hold these every 4 years. That's how new I was to the sport. And then when I ran into 4 minutes for the first time in high school, that was the moment. That was the third thing I shared with you. Are you willing to take ownership of that dream? That night, I couldn't sleep when I ran into 4 minutes the first time, because I realized it was no longer Coach Timmons' dream. And I had done lip service to it. Sure, I wanted to follow along. But on that night, I made the decision I wanted to be a part of this dream. And I wanted to do what was necessary to get there, the hard work that was necessary. So all of you guys have gone through it. At some point, you've got to take ownership. You've got to decide that's for me. And so some amazing things happened. I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated 7 times. I was ABC Wide World of Sports Athlete, Sportsman of the Year. Those are wonderful accomplishments. A silver medal in the Olympic Games, that's pretty special, except it's not gold. So I came back to my hometown, and in the headline, Ryun read, Ryun only gets a silver medal, you know. Same size as a gold medal, but we just put a little more emphasis on it. But you know, that was a part of my life story and a part of what contributed to who I am today. I went to I trained another 4 years. We got to the next Olympics after Mexico City, Munich, and I'm ready to run again. I've run the best time in the world, and along the way, though, I'm starting to have a little trouble with all this success. I don't know how to address it any other way than, you know, when you're kind of the shy guy and all of a sudden everybody expects you to have all these answers, and you know, you start searching. And so along the way, I became a Christian. And that began changing my life, because as I told someone when I ran for office, they said, you sign your autograph, and if you get one from me, I'll put down, you know, go of God, my name, and then John 3:3-8, because my life was transformed when I became a Christian. I started realizing the world didn't revolve around me. You know, I started realizing that there were other people out there. And that's one of the drawbacks to sports in some respects, is that you tend to think that you are the center of the universe. But once I became a Christian, I started realizing there are other people out there. And the other people that came into my life was my wife. I met her at a track meet when I ran the first world record of 3:51.3. She came up to me, and it was after the race, since I was the first American to hold the world record in 30 years. I had a lot of autographs and media stuff that passed about 3 hours. And as I went to the tent where all my warm-up gear had been stored, all of it had been stolen. So off I ran across the track, and this young, attractive girl and her brother came up and said, "Oh, hi, Jim, may I have your autograph? And by the way, I go to Kansas State University." Now that may not mean much, but I went to Kansas University, and their big rivalries, they said, you know, catch me later. And so we had a blind date, Thanksgiving of 1966, and we've been happily married now for over 42 years. We have 4 adult children and 11 grandchildren. But that was the beginning of another part of my journey. And it would lead us both into becoming a Christians, because we started realizing that there's more to life than just, you know, me. And so May 18th, 1972, we became Christians. Now you may wonder why I'm telling you this, because you see, for me, there became a very big turning point and a difficult time, because after I made the Olympic team in 1972, I fell in the opening round of competition in Munich, 1972. I was tripped by another runner. I fell, hit my head on the track, so I was temporarily stunned. Got up, finished, but didn't qualify for the next round of competition. And I want to tell you, that's a very difficult thing when you run 120 miles a week for 4 years getting ready for a race. You all have been through these. Those are the moments, and how do you deal with disappointment? And I remember that as I finished the race, somehow Ann got out of the stands of 80,000 people and worked her way down to the athletes' tunnel, which, by the way, was actually a pretty good-sized miracle, because you see, 2 days before, you had the shootout in the Olympic Village of the terrorists, the Black September's group, coming in and killing the Israeli athletes, and a terrible shootout at the airport, and so tensions were extremely tight. But somehow she got down into that tunnel, and the first thing we did is we embraced each other and we prayed and said, "Dear God, this isn't quite what we planned on, so since this isn't our plan, please help us." And all of a sudden the media's on us and asking questions. "You're going to be reinstated, you were fouled," and that went on for about an hour, and then all of a sudden everyone disappeared, including the coaches. How do you get reinstated in Olympic Games? I mean, in those days it was different than it is now. And so we began walking from the athletes' tunnel over to where we had all of our things stored, and I remember going by ABC Wide World of Sports, and I had a friend. You may think this is an odd friend, but he was actually a good friend. You remember the name Howard Cosell? Well, you see, Howard is an attorney, and I needed an attorney to write up an appeal for reinstatement in the Olympic Games. So I went into the ABC booth and said, "Howard, hey, listen," he said, "I know what you've got, sit down, we'll write a petition." And we wrote out a petition and submitted it to the Olympic Committee, and they agreed to meet with me the next day. So we met just outside of the Olympic Stadium with time to warm up. We met with this one official who looked at the petition for reinstatement and said, "You know, we just don't do that sort of thing." I said, "Well, sir, my appeal is based upon there were 3 of us that fell. We don't know who stepped on who, and it was an accident. And if we can't get past the next round," he said, "That's okay. It's never been done before. And maybe you'd like to come back in 4 years and try again." That was my response. I wanted to reach out and grab him by his tie. And I wanted to beat on him a little bit so he could feel some of the pain that I was feeling. I mean, you've had disappointments. We've all had them. I wasn't dealing with it very well. But God gave me grace, and I didn't punch him in the nose like I wanted to. But that's not where the story ends. And this is where I'll kind of finish it up a little bit, because life is so full of ups and downs. How do you deal with your ups and downs? And I have to admit I didn't deal with it too well. You know, after the fall, somebody called me up on the phone, talked about track and field, and didn't want to talk about Munich. Boy, did I want to tell them about Munich, how I'd been cheated out of an Olympic gold medal. Didn't even get my chance to run again because the officials said, "Come back in 4 years and try again." That was 1972. Fast forward to 1984. We're in the Los Angeles Olympics. Now, I've been a young Christian for a while, and I'm starting to grow and understand that God has plans for everyone's life. We're in the LA Stadium. Wonderful day, the last day of track and field. In those days, they loaded up track and field. Final day, 1,500 meters, marathon comes in, 4x400. I mean, it's everything, including the finals of the high jump. And in those days, and it's different than now, because now you accept it as it's just what they do in sports arenas. They had a large Jumbotron screen. In 1984, it was unique. Now you see them, and if they aren't really big, you feel like you've been cheated. But in those days, it was the LA Coliseum, large Jumbotron screen. I'm up in the nosebleed section, which is really high up, so everybody on the infield looks like an ant. And I'm watching the high jump. And I was kind of staring down there, and then I saw this man walk by. He had a different tie on, but it was that same guy in 1972 who could have reinstated me. And only in a sense of humor that God can do. He's only about 6 feet tall, but on that screen he was about 30 feet tall. I couldn't miss him. I knew what I wanted to do in 1972 was punch him in the nose. But in 1984, I not only forgave him, but I forgave myself. And I think sometimes we forget how important it is to be forgiving in our own hearts and forgiving to others. You don't want your life to end on a track. You don't want your life to end because you've had a bad experience. Life is full of them. And the winners are the ones who get up off that track and decide to go forward and decide the challenge is there, and they decide that God's going to help them, and they move forward one step at a time. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you. Thanks for being here.
Jim, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate you're telling your story, and I think that so many of the athletes here can certainly relate to the ups and downs. By the way, the book he referred to, Courage to Run, there are some copies out here if you would like to pick one up. We do have some out in the hallway at the tables, and we also have out in the hallway some posters from this evening. We have several posters, so please feel free if you want to pick up a memento of the evening. We do have those. So many of these events like this, whether it's a running event or a dinner like this, we certainly depend on our sponsors and our partners to make sure that these go on, and because of those partnerships, I think Bob Ronker certainly has been on both ends of it. Because of those partnerships, it certainly helps to have the sport grow in our area. One of the sponsors you might have noticed in the program is the Flying Pig Marathon. Flying Pig Marathon will have its 14th running here next May, and those of you, including Bob Ronker, Karen, so many of you who were in the beginning of the planning, we always talk about it's hard to envision when you guys were planning that, where it has gone and how it has grown to an international event with more than 30,000 participants this past year. And coming up on the 15th anniversary, we expect it to be bigger and bigger, better than ever as we grow. And so here to talk a little bit about the running community and the Flying Pig Marathon is the executive director of the Flying Pig Marathon, Iris Simpson-Bush. Iris?
Well, thank you. I'm very honored to get to speak on behalf of the Flying Pig tonight. So many of you in the audience have been such a big part of making it the success it is. But I have to tell you, speaking last is awful. Everything I was going to say has already been said much more eloquently than I could have probably stated it. So I'll just say it was a very easy decision to support this Running Hall of Fame event. So many of you have given so much to the Flying Pig Marathon. People who were inducted tonight, we have the honor to get to work with on a regular basis. Bob Ronker, John Sense, Karen Cosgrove has contributed so much. So many of you in the audience have participated in the event, whether you're volunteers, walking, running. So a sincere thanks to you for all you've done to make it a success. Steve, again, I'd like to add our thanks. What a wonderful event you've put on tonight, and just establishing this organization. I want you to know that you can count on the Flying Pig to continue supporting everything you're trying to do. So thank you all. I think it's probably time for me to say goodnight. Just as Betsy said, the Flying Pig will be coming up, as always, the first weekend in May. Thanks for what you contribute. I hope you're all as proud as we are of your hometown event. So thank you, have a good evening, and we were happy to be a part of tonight.
Thank you very much, Iris. Once again, Jim Ryun, thank you so much for being here. You certainly added so much class and dignity to this event. We appreciate your being here. Thank you so much for gracing us. And once again, a hearty congratulations. There's only going to be one inaugural class, and they are here with us. Congratulations once again to our inaugural class for the Hall of Fame. Thank all of you for being here. We hope to see you back here again next year. Thanks again.